Hello, everybody. Yeah, so I was then planning on doing this live chat today, and some things got filed this morning by the defense, and I've been looking it over and summarizing it. So I'm going to review about 15 PowerPoint slides. I know it's kind of boring when I just read stuff, but quite a few people say they cannot read longer documents or due to whatever attention issues or eyesight. So I try and summarize this stuff. I try to cut down the words as much as possible, but sometimes I'm unable to do that. So as always, and frustratingly, seems to be going farther and farther away from getting justice for Abby and Libby, but should be about them. So I'm not gonna look at the chat for the next 15 minutes. So you guys can talk amongst yourselves. Actually, I do have this slide where I have to kind of babysit adults. So slow mode is on, 30 seconds between messages, just to cut down on trolls and too much, the chat going by too quick. All types of opinions are welcome in my chats. All I ask is that people be polite. So don't hate other people just because they have different theories than you. Moderators will ban anyone in the chat who is being rude to anybody. So I'm in a different browser. So if you get banned, it means a moderator thought you're being a clown. People in the chat, you can click the name of an annoying person and block their messages yourself, or type the @ symbol and start typing the first letter or two of somebody's screen name. And you should be able to click that name to reply directly to that other chatter, but it will be public. If I don't highlight your comment, it does not mean I disagree with you or I dislike you. As everybody who's been here before knows, at some point I'm going to say, how far behind am I on the chat? And usually it exceeds 1 hour. So I literally don't see hundreds of your comments. So a lot of people use the chat room to talk to other people, like I say, hopefully politely. In the top of the chat box on the right, it defaults to show quote unquote top chat, but you can click that to show live chat to see all the comments. I try not to curse, but I can't promise anything. I do not highlight any comments with curses in them. As I say, a lot of families sit around their family room TVs watching me. I'm kidding. Write ISC in the chat when you want to indicate Indiana Supreme Court. It's not SCOIN, and here we go. So I started summarizing all filings and motions since February 1st. So before I get to today, the 2 documents, I'm going to do a quick review of what's been happening since February 1st. So filed by Gull, February 1st, hearing on new charges and contemptuous conduct. Summary, court orders the state's motion to amend information filed January 18th, 2024, and the state's verified information of contemptuous conduct filed January 29th, 2024, set for hearing on February 12th, which is next Monday at 9 a.m. in the Allen County Superior Court. Court will issue a transport order to have Rick be present. Since then, Baldwin and Rosie have kind of, here's what's happened. So the next day, motion for continuance by, what's his first name? I just say Rosie all the time. Brad Rosie, the defense. Summary, delay the Monday hearing for contempt because he has personal travel scheduled, which I don't know what he's doing. He says 11 days is too quick to hire an attorney and prepare his defense. McClelland no longer talks to Baldwin and Rosie on the phone, only email, so, quote, the flow of information is limited, end quote. The allegations fail to accurately categorize the contemptuous behavior as civil or criminal contempt. Therefore, Attorney Rosie is entitled to the appointment of a special judge. They obviously hate Gull. They left that part out. On January 28th, defense filed motion to disqualify Gull, so she should not be able to hold the hearing next Monday. The full Indiana Supreme Court written opinion has not been released yet. As some people have pointed out, well, then why are Baldwin and Rosie doing this stuff before that's been released? February 5th, another motion for continuous. This one is filed by Andy Baldwin. Summary. Baldwin and Rosie are still getting discovery back from Libredo and Scremin, the 2 temporary public defenders, and there is new, voluminous discovery that will take several weeks for them to review, which we'll get into that later, what that could be. It's difficult sharing the new discovery with Rick due to the distance. He's still at the Wabash prison, not the Holiday Inn. January 29th, Baldwin and Rosie filed to disqualify Gull so she should not be deciding any matters such as the February 12th hearing or until the disqualification issue is resolved. February 6th, which was yesterday, filed by the defense, Baldwin and Rosie. The summary is this attorney, which I'm sure most of you know, who he was at the October 19th or actually October 31st hearing. David Hennessy will represent Baldwin and Rosie for the contempt hearing Monday, the 12th. No, I'm not going to do a live chat, but I might do one later Monday evening. Highly likely, unfortunately for me. All right, February 7th, here we go. This was filed today. So I have maybe like up to 10 of these slides that I'm going to review over the next like 10 minutes. So talk amongst yourselves as I'm droning on. Motion to dismiss for destroying exculpatory evidence filed by Baldwin and Rosie. The summary for the first slide of quite a few. So there are two filings. I'm going to do both of them at the same time. The defense has unearthed significant evidence. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Hopefully. Sorry. One time I was chatting for a long time and people said, we can't hear you. All right, here we go. The defense has unearthed significant evidence that Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal, who are two of the quote unquote Odinists that were referenced in the Franks memo, were involved in the murders. That evidence is critical to the theory of defense. On February 17th and February 19th, 2017, an FBI report said the interview of Holder was videotaped and Westphal was also interviewed. September 8th, 2023, McClelland told the defense team there were no video or audio recordings for Holder and Westphal, but did not say why. Gull removed Baldwin and Rosie before they learned why the tapes were missing. On January 31st, like a week ago, McClelland handed over the evidence to Baldwin and Rosie after they had been reinstated. And it included a letter that said, quote, due to DVR program error discovered on 9/20/2017, all recordings up to February 20th, 2017 were recorded over. There is no detectable audio found on this drive. So I wrote here, I don't know if the defense or McClelland wrote that wrong. It seems this should be February 20th. So due to an error discovered on February 20th, 2017, all recorded interviews of suspects and other people, I guess at the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, were recorded over, which obviously is like WTF. So people are wondering, how could this even be possible? From Tom's expert research, I'm kidding. Imagine if you walk into an interview room. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying this is a possible explanation. If you walk into an interview room and you're going to interview a suspect, the policeman or detective pushes a button on the wall to start the video recording. When he's done and they leave the room, he's supposed to push it to stop it. So let's say they did all these interviews, like whatever, February, I don't even know, like 14th to the 20th. And maybe like at some point, one of these detectives walked out of that room and he forgot to push the button to turn off the recording. So it kept recording an empty room until the next person came in, which they would have pushed it, which would have actually stopped it instead of starting it, which is just a continued cluster F, as they say. So that could possibly be why it recorded over all of these prior interviews, because somebody failed to remove it from that main drive to another drive just to save space on that main drive. So if you're wondering how this happened, that's one, let's just say, fairly logical explanation, unfortunately. Next slide. Continue with the same motion. As material part of his defense, Rick is expected to direct the attention toward Holder and Westphal as being involved in the murders. Rick does not know Holder or Westphal, and therefore that Rick had nothing to do with the murders. I mean, I agree with some of the stuff that the defense says, but that's kind of stretching it if you ask me. We can argue about it later. This destroyed videotaped interview of Holder and of Westphal was expected to contain evidence that could provide exculpatory and material evidence in support of Rick's defense. If you watched Tom's live chats before, you know exculpatory evidence excuses the defendant. It's good for Rick. So exculpatory is good for Rick. If a recording of Westphal was never secured, that too is purposeful or negligent failure to preserve material and exculpatory evidence. Defense lawyers need to compare and contrast the accuracy of taped statements with information in police reports and future testimony. However, the state's intentional or negligent destruction of the original recordings deprive Rick of that opportunity. Just a reminder for people, this is me summarizing it as best I could. I do not delete stuff just to, as some people say, I have an agenda or I'm biased. So no, it's just me trying to cut down on words to give you guys like the basic overall summary. August 30th, so last summer, 2023, police re-interviewed Holder for what is believed to be the first time since 2017. In 2017, according to the memorialized report, quote, Holder never actually met Abby himself, end quote. But his story changed in 2023, I guess like August. Quote, I barely even knew that girl. I met her once, end quote. So that's Holder saying that. And he, again, was the father of the girl, or sorry, of the boy Abby was quote unquote dating. Therefore, one contradiction exists and many more would be available to the defense, which could be exculpatory in nature, but for the state's intentional or negligent failure to preserve all the evidence. This violates Rick's due process rights. So May 1st, 2023, McClelland received a letter from the former Rushville police officer Todd Click, attempting to make him aware of the 85-page report on the quote-unquote Odinists. I'm sure most of you are familiar with all this stuff. This was not given to Baldwin or Rosie until like 4 months and a week later on September 8th, 10 days before the Franks memo. After the defense disclosed they were aware of Odinist ties to the crime. This failure to disclose, if not entirely intentional, rises to the level of an untimely failure of disclosure of potentially exculpatory evidence. And I totally agree with the defense with their many, in the Franks memo, they kept saying it's taking so long to hand over stuff from like 2017, including these interviews. And I totally agreed with them. And I said, well, it seems like law enforcement was totally unorganized. I added this here, though. What about the defense not having turned over any evidence whatsoever as of a few days ago? McClelland filed something last week to compel the defense to hand over this discovery because they're supposed to be doing that too. So I agree with the defense, but I also agree with the prosecution that it works both ways. Continuing on with the same one. In the Franks memo, it appears law enforcement and possibly Nick McClelland attempted to conceal the identity of the Purdue professor who contradicts Holman and Liggett concerning whether the crime scene contained signs of the involvement of an Odinist cult. In recent discovery, the defense located prepared search warrants to AT&T. So for people outside the US, that's a phone company. So the defense located prepared search warrants to this phone company, AT&T, for Holder and Westfall's phone data, which state Holder and Westfall, there's two different ones. So in each one it said, these guys are, quote, a known member of a religious sect and elements of the murder have potential religious significance, end quote. There's no evidence the warrant was ever served or any discovery regarding any data contained on Holder's and Westfall's 2017 phones or devices. It defies logic that law enforcement would conduct forensic examinations of so many other phones in its investigation, yet ignore the phones of Holder and Westfall, who were viewed as suspects within days of the murders and interviewed, and law enforcement prepared the phone warrants. I totally agree with that if it's true. And it seems like it is at this point. Like, why did they not submit those documents? Also, what I'm thinking at this point is, how did law enforcement clear, quote unquote, Holder and Westfall previously and more recently? We can talk about that later. Defendant requests a hearing to present evidence and make arguments as to why these charges should be dismissed. All right, I need a drink. So they filed this other thing, a memorandum of law in support of dismissal. So I'm going to get to that in a second. I see Gino. Thank you very much, as always. Oh my gosh. Thank you. I appreciate you. And hopefully there's some moderators. Whoever's a moderator, thank you for babysitting adults. All right. Now, there's like 5 more summaries of this, and then I'll get to your comments. So also filed today in relation to this by the defense. This is a summary. So it says memorandum of law in support of dismissal. Two, I need a nap. All right, summary. At issue is the purposeful or negligent failure to preserve and or the destruction of material and exculpatory evidence critical to the defense of Rick. It also involves the attempted concealment of the identify, they messed it up, of key witness later identified as Professor Jeffrey Turcott, which the defense misspelled his name. There's no T at the end of his name, which I don't know why the defense is still getting this stuff wrong. But don't focus on the small things, Tom. And other exculpatory evidence, such as Todd Click's letter and evidence referred to by Click in his letter. Rick requests the court dismiss pursuant to Indiana Code 35-34-1-4, parentheses A, parentheses 11, which states that motion to dismiss may be granted for such grounds, including violation of defendant's constitutional rights to due process. Additionally, trial courts have inherent authority to dismiss criminal charges where the prosecution of such charges would violate defendant's constitutional rights and right to due process. Continuing on, the Indiana Supreme Court has stated three different things. A serious breach of duty occurs when the prosecution willfully or intentionally, when unjustified by public policy, obstructs the access of the defense to material evidence in its possession. Number two, the negligent or intentional destruction of evidence by the police can provide grounds for reversal or dismissal on due process and due course of law grounds. When the prosecution determines evidence to be non-material and further decides not to advise defense counsel of such evidence prior to its destruction, heavy burden rests upon the prosecution to demonstrate that the destruction of such evidence did not prejudice the defendant. Quote, the appropriate test to apply when deciding whether defendant's due process rights have been violated by the state's failure to preserve evidence depends on whether the evidence in question was, quote, potentially useful evidence or material exculpatory evidence, end quote. The burden is on the state to demonstrate this evidence was not material and its destruction did not prejudice Rick. Potentially useful evidence is defined as evidentiary material of which no more can be said than that it could have been subjected to tests, the results of which might have exonerated the defendant. The state's failure to preserve potentially useful evidence constitutes due process violation when the defendant can show bad faith. The Indiana Court of Appeals has noted that, quote, in some instances, the destruction or failure to preserve evidence may be so prejudicial to the defendant as to warrant reversal even in the absence of bad faith by the officers, end quote. The state's good or bad faith in failing to preserve material exculpatory evidence is irrelevant. An item is quote unquote material if it appears that it might benefit the preparation of the defendant Rick's case, or if it might reasonably affect the outcome of his trial. The failure to preserve or destruction prevents the defense team from establishing the exculpatory nature of the evidence and its materiality. As such, the defense is not required to demonstrate the materiality of the evidence. Even if this court requires showing of quote unquote bad faith, it is apparent. Bad faith is defined as being, quote, not simply bad judgment or negligence, but rather implies the conscious doing of wrong because of dishonest purpose or moral obliquity, end quote. They added this, obliquity is defined as, quote, deviation from moral rectitude or sound thinking, end quote. And they wrote, see Webster's New International Dictionary, 1680, second edition, 1947. I finally got a shout out in an official document. Before this goes away, Deb's True Crime Notebook, you're always so nice. Deb has her own YouTube channel where she covers a lot of stuff in Delphi, so definitely check her out. Thank you, as always, Deb. This last paragraph. The U.S. Supreme Court recognized police have a constitutional duty to preserve such evidence, quote, whatever duty the Constitution imposes on the states to preserve evidence, that duty must be limited to evidence that might be expected to play a significant role in the suspect's defense. There's maybe like 2 or 3 more slides. Brady versus Maryland, 1963, quote, to prevail on a Brady claim, defendant must establish 1, that the prosecution suppressed evidence, 2, that the evidence was favorable to the defense, and 3, that the evidence was material to an issue at trial. The right to due process conferred under the Constitution of Indiana contains significant language not found in the U.S. Constitution. 3 more contemporary decisions dealing with the issue of destruction of evidence are of particular import. I did not summarize these in the PowerPoint because they're kind of like saying essentially this whole same whatever theme. 2 Indiana decisions have been found in which the issue of due process and the destruction of evidence was raised under both the federal and Indiana constitutions. Although both of these decisions were determined adversely to the defendants, both also stated that negligent or intentional destruction of material evidence by the police or the prosecution may present grounds for reversal. Okay, this is the last one, I think, isn't it? Oh, no, there's one more after this. So this is the last slide for this memorandum of law in support of dismissal. Given the facts of Rick's case, the penalty involved, and the long history of concern about preservation of evidence in Indiana case law, as well as evidence of attempts of law enforcement in this case, and the state of Indiana attempting to conceal other material and exculpatory evidence, Rick should not be deprived of remedy for the egregious loss of evidence occasioned by the action of law enforcement and or the prosecution in his case, especially in light of the ease with which the evidence could have been preserved. The only remedy that serves the interest of justice and guarantees Mr. Allen's constitutional rights is dismissal. So they're looking for a hearing. I do think these are pretty important accusations, and I do think he deserves a hearing. My main concern is there's quite a few things that I think point to his guilt, and I just don't think he should walk because of these law enforcement errors. I'm curious to know if any lawyers are in the chat, what is next? If his case gets, or his charges get dismissed, is that the end, or what are the next steps? So one more update today, order issued by Judge Siegel. Summary, the court, which means her, having defendant's verified motion to disqualify filed January 28th, defendant's affidavit filed the 28th, and certification of Richard Allen's attorneys also filed on the 28th, under advisement and having considered the pleadings, now denies the verified motion to disqualify Gull without a hearing, as the Indiana Supreme Court unanimously denied defendant's previous request on January 18th. So there's not going to be a hearing to disqualify Gull from the case because she's saying the Indiana Supreme Court already said a few weeks ago that they don't think she should have been removed. However, they obviously did say she messed up by removing Bolton and Rosie. So that's my slides, and I'm going to get to your comments in a second. Let's see. I'm already 20 minutes behind. Just give me a second. I'm looking to highlight a comment. Welcome, everybody from all around the world. Please be polite in the chat. I'm just looking for a comment relevant to what I just talked about. Oh my God. I think everybody in this case could use a pack of cigarettes right now or some doobie. All right. I'm still looking for something about this case. All right. Let me, unfortunately, go on. If my cheeks look red, it's because I'm cold and I put the heater on before this because I don't want to be cold. So this chat is ending when I'm too cold to continue. Aries Fire, hello. Hi, everybody. I'll say hi to you as I highlight your comments. Too much has been scrubbed from the beginning. Documents, videos, news articles, news clips, etc. Only the governor has the power to do that. So you think Governor Holcomb is deleting stuff? I don't know. I'm not sure what you're saying there. High caricature contest. Seriously, who would dismiss the prime suspect? Good grief. Yeah. I mean, who allegedly admitted to being the killer. I know people get upset when I say that, but I added allegedly. And why? Here's another issue. I mean, they're talking about exculpatory evidence for Rick, but why is what's his name, McClelland? A few weeks ago, he filed 4 more charges, which seem to indicate he has even more evidence that he thinks is better to prove that Rick was involved and not just Bridge Guy, but the killer. I don't know. Is my sound too low? Sorry. When I laugh, it hurts people's ears. All right. Hi, Katsu. Of course, it's Odinus again. Well, I do think the defense has a lot of valid points, and it's like, how does this stuff? I don't want to say keep happening, but it's been happening. Apparently, we find out now since the first few days. Like they deleted all of these interviews, which I should not say they deleted. It seems like it could have been a one mistake if somebody did not push this button hard enough, or they did not push it at all because they were distracted or what. I mean, if that's the case, it does not seem intentional to me, but it's obviously a huge screw up. And my other concern is like if they found out on whatever February 20th, why did they not ask everybody to come back in? That seems like to be a huge issue. So that's around February 20th when I guess the FBI seemed to be focusing more on preparing a search warrant for Ron Logan. So did they focus on Ron Logan too quick and not these Odinists, which we know from the Franks memo, they were still looking into the Odinists as of 2020. They were interviewing like the sisters of that guy who confessed and these various other people. So, I mean, there were accusations by the defense that or law enforcement in general did not properly investigate these Odinists. But I mean, there is some evidence or not a lack of evidence pointing to that. But as I just said, they were conducting these interviews with these various suspects as of like 3 years after the murders. I'm curious to see what is I know that at least 2 of these guys, Westfall and Holder, were questioned again last August. I don't know, that revelation about this AT&T phone records not being submitted, that's a huge screw up. Can they do that now? I don't know. Get those records. We're almost like 7 years tomorrow, not tomorrow, like in a week. It's 7 years later. So I would say they lost any potential phone records by this time for Westfall and Holder. Although we know from the Franks memo, Holder checked out of his he put in his time card at work at 2:45 p.m. As we all know, Bridge Guy is on video at 2:13. Holder worked a half hour away from the bridge. So I know people who feel like there's some huge conspiracy think that like somebody helped him clock out. I do not agree with that. But hopefully they have some kind of video evidence with his. I think they did say his truck is on video too, but the defense is like, well, how do we know he's driving it? Which kind of seems like stretching it to me anyway. There's a lot of different opinions. I'm going to highlight the various opinions so don't get triggered if one is against what you think. Julia, hi. Majority of the defense's attempts to prolong these hearings is pathetic. I get that it's their job to grasp at straws. Well, I don't know. They have some valid points. When/since they're desperate, but this case has become such a headache. I know. It's like, I mean, they said at some point Rick has nothing to hide, and then they tried to hide everything from his search of his house. They said they wanted a speedy trial in 70 days, and now they want no trial because there's missing interviews. What about all this evidence that McClelland is saying he has that warranted this upgrade of 4 other charges? I mean, as I said before, I think there should be a hearing about this. I absolutely think there should be a hearing at some point to determine if Rick truly is bridge guy, so all the evidence can be presented by the state. Yeah. It's crazy, and it's just like one thing after another. Hide the simulation. I think one of my moderators banned you after the last chat. I unbanned you, so just please be careful with your wording of things. I really want to know if the interviews were conducted by Indiana State Police with FBI observing or the other way around. Yeah, I'm not positive of the location, if it was at Carroll County Sheriff's Office or what. USA Libertarian, hello. Maybe don't set it to overwrite. Well, some people have said, is Carroll County, Indiana, like the tech hub of the Midwest? Actually, nobody has said that. I did, but I've heard that Carroll County Jail is a cesspool or something where they don't even have heat. So are we really expecting them to have like high tech capabilities? I mean, you would say, well, they don't need high tech capabilities. All they need to do is like push this button, if that is truly how this their interview room works. Kennedy, did you see the new filing by Michael Ausbrook? No, I did not. Somebody referenced something before, and like 15 minutes before this started, and I did not see anything on my case. So no, I've only seen the 3 that I just reviewed. Sorry. I'm not doing a live chat tomorrow to talk about the new one. USA Libertarian, Rick allegedly only met her once too. Libby, or sorry, Abby? I never recall hearing that Rick met Abby. I know that he met her mom, I think, at the local bar where I believe she worked at some point. Hi, Instamat. I'm not reading again. Kennedy says, exactly, the mystery professor. I don't know. We're going to have to wait for the trial to hear exactly what he said. I've said in previous live chats, which a lot of you are in all of them. Thank you all for coming and sharing your thoughts too. Do I have to recount what he said? He said in his, I think he was, September 19th, the day after the Franks memo came out, Holman interviewed him again. The professor, Turco, not Turcot, said it was evident or obvious, something like that, that somebody was trying to replicate Germanic runic script by putting the branches on, 3 branches on Abby, 4 on Libby. However, he said he could not interpret them. And I've said previously, well, if I'm a member of the jury and this expert cannot say, okay, on Abby, it's this rune, and that's what it means. On Libby, these 4 sticks are in the shape of this rune, and show me like the official like chart. I know a lot of you have probably seen these charts that show what these various like Germanic runic runes and symbols and letters are. So as a jury member, I want to see like an official chart saying, okay, this is one Germanic rune. Here are the 3 branches on Abby. Do you see the similarity? And each jury member is going to have to decide and do the same thing with Libby. But why is he saying he could not interpret it? Could he interpret which rune it was, but not like the meaning that the killer or whoever put them on their bodies was intending to convey? As I and other people have said, if you're an Odinist, are you leaving your business card on the bodies of 2 girls you just killed? Like, hey, police, look at Odinists as at the top of your list of suspects, which I mean, if it turns out that it was Odinist, they obviously screwed up police repeatedly on following up on the guys who said, okay, Odinist did this. But I still can't get past the defense starting off the Frank's memo saying it was a ritualistic sacrifice by white supremacists. I mean, they did not add the part of 2 white girls, but why are white supremacists killing 2 white girls? As a jury member, that's something I will have trouble getting past. And no, I'm not on the jury. I'm just saying, like, this is how I kind of approach these various things in this case. Hi, Owl on the Prowl. I heard vague references to this. I have not seen this fully. They had a town meeting, which, just to be clear, sorry, it's probably Carroll County, not to nitpick you, but so I guess Carroll County has these various council meetings, maybe once a month or more, complaining they did not have enough money to properly try the case in 2023. I think you're talking, was that when McClellan said he needed $5,000 more each, possibly for him and the second in charge, Shane Evans, the former mayor. At that point, I was criticizing McClellan for saying he needs $5,000 more. However, I have changed my mind because he said in various filings, due to this photo leak of the crime scene, that he's been on conference calls at 2 a.m., 4 a.m., and I've said previously I contacted him once after 10 p.m. regarding an error he made. And within like 15 to 20 minutes on a weekday after 10 o'clock, he replied to me. So he's doing work after 10 p.m. I criticized him, but I was impressed that he replied so quick on a work night so late. People who hate him will disagree, but I mean, I think that was impressive and he's working long hours. So give him $5,000 more. USA Libertarian, lawyers are supposed to be toddlers. The judge is supposed to be the adult. Whoops. No, I'm saying I'm like the babysitter of this chat, or actually the moderators are. I'm too busy rambling on. Hi, Salty Beach. Are you back here somewhere? My fear is, this is Honolulu, Waikiki, for people who want to know. My fear is Rick is the right guy, but he's going to walk because the state has messed so many things up. I have that in common with you, Salty Beach. Hi, slightly stoned Pepsi or cherry Pepsi. Thank you for asking. Oh, I have to say Taco Bell. Apparently people have a drinking game during my live chats. Every time I say Taco Bell, they have to drink alcohol. Hi, Xtina. Maybe the judge never signed off on the search warrants for phones because he or she did not think there was enough evidence to support the warrant. I guess that could be a good point. I'm sure people are now going to go against you in the chat, but maybe I'll get to it in an hour. Aries Fire. They took the 70,000 tips and used them for their own advantage. Have a good night. I wish that they never set up this phone or email tip line. If they had not gotten all these crazy tips from around the world, would they have focused on what they had done, like at the local grocery store where Rick apparently went? I don't know. There's various. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking. Sorry. It's to be determined how Rick got in contact with the conservation officer and when. Thank you, Deb. I appreciate you. I like your laugh too. That one time when I said you were talking about swollen glands. Oh my God, sorry. Tina, what if a super good friend of Tobe Lesenby snuck into the boardroom where the tapes were being stored and deleted them? Then surely the defense would think it was no problem at all. Tina apparently is not a fan of the defense daddies, which is what some people apparently call them. Hi, Marshall. Hopefully you're paying attention to the road. Thank you to everybody in like Europe for staying up late and whatever. Poland, my Polish peeps. Ah. Hi, Simply123. I don't know if Richard Allen is guilty or innocent, but the defense's job is to show reasonable doubt. And I have to say that law enforcement and prosecution are serving that up on a silver platter. I agree. But as other people have said, if he's, I just want there to be a trial where the true evidence is presented. And people are saying, well, how can they present true evidence if it was deleted, Tom? And if you yell loud enough at your TV, I can hear you. Ah, oh my gosh. When is this over? I'm actually hot right now, which, oh my gosh. I said I was ending this chat when I'm cold, but unfortunately I'm hot. Kennedy says maybe the interview recordings will be found with Doolin's recording of the grocery store interview that he said he knows he recorded. Did he say he knows he did? I thought he said he thought he recorded all of them. I don't know. If you're referencing a fact, it's better than my memory. I don't know. It might turn out that Doolin did not know that he was going to be interviewing Rick. Could Rick have been at the grocery store and seen somebody in like police uniform, like a conservation officer, which maybe that's different than a police uniform, and said, I was at the trails. And so Doolin, the conservation officer, took out his pen and paper and just took down basic information. And so he did not think like, okay, this is an official like suspect interview. So he did not push record on his phone or whatever, or have a tape recorder. I don't know. We'll have to wait for the trial to find out. Hi, Anne. Baldwin and Rosie gonna just keep grinding this stuff out. They don't want to go to trial because, well, they're good enough lawyers to know the likely outcome, in my opinion. Well, why is Libreto giving an interview saying he knows that Rick or thinks that Rick is 100% innocent and has nothing to do with the murders? He said one girl was sacrificed and the other, I forget what his wording was, but he said one of Abby and Libby were sacrificed. Why is he stating that on TV? Hi, Bree OC. If Rick did not do it, who did? That's one of my big concerns is if they falsely arrested him, which I do not think police did. Whatever. I've talked about that previously. My concern is if he truly is not the killer or involved, who did it? And if so, if it's not the Odinists, it means this case is totally cold, which is my biggest, or one of my biggest concerns. I'm also concerned if Rick is falsely convicted, that solves nothing. So my other thing is a few days ago, I'm sure some of you saw it, I did a video called How Did Richard Allen Not See Bridge Guy? And mostly it was even more so about how did these four girls on the trail around 12:30 to 1:30 not see Rick and Rick not see them? My condolences to anybody who thought they left a logical comment or explanation. Nobody gave like an logical explanation that explained away. So I agree that the defense is providing like some shady stuff going down in the city of whatever, Delphi. But at its most basic level, is Rick being honest about being on the trails noon to 1:30? Like whether I know I'm not like diminishing like losing all these recordings and stuff like that or any kind of like corruption. I'm not dismissing that at all. But at the most basic level, I want to know who is Bridge Guy. That's like my main concern. And if Rick is saying he was there noon to 1:30 and police say we have video showing his car at 127 going towards CPS, not away from it. And if police know that there were never any group of three girls around 12:05 that Rick said he passed near the start of the trails, then that's important to proving whether Rick is bridge guy or not. So, I mean, that's my main concern, but I agree that this stuff that came out today is a disaster. And I do think that people should lose their jobs or whatever, but as I said, I do still think that there should be a trial to show all the evidence that they have. I do not think Rick should never be tried. Bree gets 2 highlights in a row. I've never even seen you here. Hopefully, sorry, I shouldn't have said that if I have seen you. It's so tiring to see officials always messing cases up and people can't get justice they deserve. I agree with that. Uh-oh, we have a lawyer in the chat. I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer in the chat. That was a Harvey Levin TMZ impression. Not a good one. I missed the part where they talked about the basis for requesting dismissal of the charges, but they can always be refiled as there is not a statute of limitations on murder. All right. All right. Over the next few days, I'm gonna have to like get some more clarification on exactly what the next steps could be. Hi, Digital. Dismissed with prejudice or without prejudice is the difference whether he, Rick, can be charged again. But excuse me, what? I'm Tales not sure the finer details. Oh my God, I'm not sure of the finer details. Do I get a prize for translating those hieroglyphics? Hi, Angel Ray. Does anyone recall Brad Holder stating he was at the gym that day in some social media statement? Yeah, in the Frank's memo, they talked about him being up. I think it was like the morning of February 14th, which would have been after the murders. So it would have been 2 a.m. on February 14th. He was at the Logansport, I forget, Anytime Fitness maybe. So the defense was saying like he also posted on Facebook after the night of the murders, like my adrenaline level is really high. And so the defense is kind of implying that his adrenaline was so high because he had just helped kill 2 girls. As I stated before, his time card checked out at 2:45. He worked a half hour away from the crime scene. So I don't know. He's not bridge guy as far as I can see. He had a really long beard before and after the murder. So I don't think Brad Holder is bridge guy. I don't know. Nor do I think Westfall is, because he's like 6'4" to 6'6". Yeah, so we don't know when this is coming out, Kennedy. We haven't seen the Supreme Court's exact explanation for their decisions. I looked at one other case or one other hearing before the January 18th, whatever, hearing at the Supreme Court. And I looked online, and that written decision came out about 10 days after. I don't know how long it's been since January 18th, like whatever, it's now 3 weeks, 21 days later or more. I don't know. Hi, CJK. You've got great moderators. They don't put up with hateful chats, right? That's good to know. Hi, DNA King, Mr. Defense Attorney. Hi, 402 people watching. All right, Ann Vroom. Rick would be recharged, but charges are not going to get dismissed. This just standard legal kicking sand in the other guy's eye stuff. Whenever you see words like egregious, you know the substance is BS. I don't know. I do think these are very valid concerns about what happened. Hi, Gwen. Should I stop saying doobie? Gino, as a former defense attorney, you never know what's going to stick. So sometimes you throw some wild stuff against the wall and just hope it works out. All right. Hi, Luna Blue. Are they covering up their incompetence or covering up the real killer? I mean, yeah, I have a lot of issues with, as I said, I think it could have been a legitimate error that somebody did not push a button to turn off the recording. It then may have kept recording until the next interview, maybe 24 hours or more later. unfortunately overwriting prior interviews that were not properly taken off the main drive onto another drive to save space. I've talked a lot about it. I just don't think they were organized at all. So that could be covering up incompetence. I do not think they would cover up the real killer. I know people disagree with me, but I think they want justice. And if they have all this evidence against somebody else, like an onus, if they knew Holder and Westfall were the killers, you really think they would just say, no, we don't want to look bad, so we're going to have them like be free for the rest of their lives, and just we hate Rick Allen so much, or we don't want to look stupid. I don't know. I don't think that that's the case, Luna. Yes, Salty Beach, it's Waikiki. There's a webcam that I sometimes watch from my recliner. Oh my God. Kennedy says cell phone evidence would be a great source for investigations of suspects, especially if their interviews disappeared, like the professor's identity. Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned that why did, as somebody said before, was there not enough evidence for a judge to get a warrant? But you would think that this case was so huge, and I mean, it still is. Why would a judge say, no, police officer, I don't care about these girls getting justice, so I'm going to deny your request for this AT&T warrant? I assume at some point McClelland is going to issue some kind of rebuttal motion to this, and we'll see what he says, if anything, about these AT&T search warrants. Hi, Steph. Nice to see you. The first week's worth of interviews supposedly deleted. I know. I don't know why they wouldn't go back and say, come on down. You're the next suspect to be interviewed twice because we screwed up. To me, like, that's a huge screw up again, to not even do that. I don't know. The simulation. Imagine if the state had lost any of Alex Murdaugh's interviews. This whole cluster was a gift to the defense. And also, I mean, if you watch that case or the trial, as I said previously, the phone and car data was so incriminating against Alex, which I think convicted him. So this phone data is very important to show if somebody is innocent or guilty. And what does Rick's phone data show? I don't know. And would that even like bypass? I don't know. Let me finish my statement. Would that bypass the importance of Westfall and Holder? In this latest filing today, the defense, like I said, as I was reading it, the defense saying that Rick did not know Holder and Westfall, therefore he had nothing to do with the murders. I don't think so. Nice try. But I don't know. Keep it moving. Hi, Athena. Thank you. I appreciate it. I guess. I don't know. Hi, Kelt. Guess we have to decide how much slack we give law enforcement. How many mistakes can they make before it looks intentional? One? No. I don't think some of this stuff is intentional. I do think it's just incompetence and just not being organized, which is a huge concern of mine in general. Like, how are these law enforcement officers conducting their investigations, and how did the Unified Command, which is like considered, I think, the top 6 or 7 law enforcement officers in this case, the Delphi case, how are they going back to this older evidence if it's not like all in one server, neatly organized like I would have? I don't know if I said this in my recent live chat. I recently looked on my computer and I have a Delphi folder. So it just says Delphi. It has 198 subfolders, 3,700 files, and what else? I don't know. But why are law enforcement not doing that? I don't know. What is their system? Because it seems like it took so long for some of this evidence to be turned over to McClelland and then McClelland over to the defense, because law enforcement did not have a central location to hold it all. which is concerning on a variety of levels. I'm concerned about a lot of things related to this case. Anne says the defense is welcome to go ahead and re-interview anybody. Well, they made a good point, Anne. Part of being a defense lawyer is comparing what they would have said on camera, or at least on audio, in 2017 compared to what he said, or they said 6 years later, for any inconsistencies, like Holder saying he never met Abby in 2017, and then later saying he met her once, like whatever, 7 years later. Stephanie says, no excuse for all the mistakes and negligence in this case. I've said previously, like, there has to be an investigation into this investigation, both internal by Indiana State Police and like an external firm. I'm unemployed right now. Do they want me to come to Indiana and complain? I agree with this, the simulation. I've said this a lot of times. I'm just continually astonished at Indiana's procedures or lack thereof. And it's not just law enforcement, it's also Judge Gull. She's not following procedures either. And the defense also, I don't know about them. Oh. How long are we going? 56 minutes. Maybe 2 hours and 3 more minutes. I'm still hot. I'll keep you updated on my internal temperature. As soon as I get cold, this chat is over. Hi, Lala Fogo. Don't see the defense looking for a dismissal over the lost Dan Doolin tapes, D-U-L-I-N, where Rick admits to being on the trail until 3:30. That's, oh, sorry. I just woke some people up. Yeah, some people watch my live chats because they can't afford Ambien, so they just listen to my boring voice to fall asleep. All right. Anyway, sorry, I woke some people up with my loud laugh. That's a good point, Lala. But I don't know that he recorded it. And if he did, it would be a great thing to show if he changed his story over the years. Just like the defense wants to see if the Odinists changed their stories over the year. But I'm not expecting this quote unquote lost interview to be found. I don't know that he ever recorded it. Hi, Junior. USA Libertarian, the pro-guilty side is the low information crowd by far. What is your explanation about how Rick and these 4 girls did not see each other? Patiently waiting for your explanation. Do you not think it's concerning that Rick said he did not see these 4 girls in the 60 minutes that all 5 of them were on the trails? They walked by all 6 benches when they got there, headed towards Highbridge. Rick said he parked at CPS. Don't even say, I'm not saying you, but people are trying to say, oh, we don't know that Rick parked at the CPS. He could have parked at the old Farm Bureau building. But that 2017 tip narratives just said he parked at the old Farm Bureau building. We don't know that Rick said that. It could have been Doolin, the conservation officer, assuming that old building was an old Farm Bureau building. In 2022, October 13th, Rick told police, I parked next to an old building. He did not say I parked next to the old Farm Bureau building. So it seems to me like Doolin was the one who assumed that old building that Rick said he parked next to was an old Farm Bureau building. So he said he parked at CPS because even the defense in the Franks memo kept saying witness 4 around 2:15 saw a car from the 1960s at CPS. That means Rick's car was not at CPS. That means he left CPS. So Rick parked at CPS. He said he went and saw 3 girls near the Freedom Bridge entrance as soon as he arrived, which is about 12:05. He said he walked to the high bridge and was on platform 1. Then he went back on the trails and sat on a bench. As I'm sure most of you have seen, that's like a straight trail. He did not say, I went in the woods. He did not say, I went down the 505. He said, I went to the bridge and then went back to sit on a bench. So how did these girls walk by all 6 benches and not see Rick and him not see them? And then these 4 girls took a photo at 12:43 of the high bridge. And then I believe they went to the Mears intersection, down the 505 to the creek, came back up to Mears, and then headed out. And at 1:26, they take a photo of bench 2, on bench 2 of 2 of these sisters. So Rick said he left at 1:30, and by my expert calculations, looking at some videos of people who walked from CPS to Freedom Bridge and bench 2, it would take about 4 minutes to walk from bench 1, which you can see bench 1 from bench 2. It would take 4 minutes. So Rick would have had to leave bench 1 around 1:26, the time of this photo, to get to CPS and leave at 1:30. Why did these girls not see Rick sitting on bench 1 as they approached bench 2? They took the photo at 1:26. It would have taken a few minutes, I believe, for them to actually like sit down and one of these girls to like take their photo. I guess we'll have to wait for the trial to find out how long these girls were at within view of bench 1. If they were there for a few minutes, like, Rick's timeline does not add up. And as I said in my latest video, within a few minutes, Rick leaves Freedom Bridge to CPS. Within a few minutes, a very small number of minutes, Bridge Guy enters from Freedom Bridge and passes these 4 girls soon after they took this 1:26 photo. So you don't think it's like a huge coincidence that some guy, which I made a spreadsheet in my latest video with like 14 to 16 similarities between Bridge Guy and Rick. I don't know. I look forward to your explanation how Rick did not see the 4 girls twice. Malibu, hate to say it, but Rick needs to be released. Prosecution, judge, law enforcement, and defense antics are seriously interfering with Rick's rights. A fair, speedy trial, competent representation, and impartial judge. Well, they said they wanted a speedy trial, and they had Rick sign that last August, and they still have not filed it. I believe it's been said that the defense was waiting for the discovery deadline November 1st, and then that they were going to file the speedy trial to start January 8th is when it was supposed to start. I don't know. They can still file it now, and they say Rick's 100% innocent, so we'll find out that he's innocent at trial. Let's see all the evidence, or at least, obviously, I'm not saying me, but the jury. Somebody needs to decide if it's true or not. Salty Beach, I really hope they have DNA or trophy evidence they found at this place or at his house that seals it that Rick could have been involved. In the Franks memo, they said Holman agreed that Rick's DNA was not at the crime scene. The way they worded it, it could have been possible that Abby and Libby's DNA was found either in his car. They did take 5 samples from Rick's car. They also searched his shed. I know that I guess a nosy neighbor, I don't know, Gladys Kravitz, said that they were taking photos in the shed behind Rick's house. I don't know, did they take photos just before they took evidence, or was there something big that they thought, okay, this needs to be photographed? I don't know. Also, Holman, despite admitting that list of 7 items that that point to Rick being innocent, he said to the defense team in his August 2023 deposition, something along the lines of, well, ask your client, Richard Allen, he's the one who killed Abby and Libby. So despite these 7 good things pointing towards Rick's innocence, why does Holman still think that Rick is the killer? I think that should be revealed at the trial. So, I think there should be a trial. Yeah, as I said, there's a lots of different opinions on both sides. C-Mom, different day, same nothing burger from the defense, spin and PR. Let's see them argue the facts in trial. Yes, I want to see the facts in the trial, but I do think there should be a hearing for what they the defense filed today. Oh yeah, so just a reminder for people who are late, this next Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern, February 12th, Gull said she's having a hearing, and it's going to be interesting, hopefully at some level, I'm sure on a lot of levels, because one of the issues, there's two issues. One is the accusations that Baldwin and Rosie were whatever contemptuous. The other one is, I think, these upgraded charges, the 4 charges against Rick. So are we going to find out more information why McClelland added these 4 charges? I think a lot of us want to see some more proof pointing towards Rick's guilt. I mean, some people want to see more proof pointing towards his innocence too, but I've said I have not made a final decision yet. I still don't know if Rick is innocent or guilty, but there are just some of these things that I cannot explain away pointing towards his guilt. USA Libertarian, the defense is absolutely not the ones delaying this. That's crazy. Well, why have they not filed the speedy trial? They said Rick's 100% innocent. Luna says the defense is doing their job with 3 exclamation points. She's yelling at her TV. Luna, you better be watching me on an iPhone 10 with bad resolution, not a big screen TV. Gino asked Malibu, has Rick waived his right to a speedy trial? I think his non-waiver was a part of the Supreme Court decision, right? I need to dig into this more. What did Gino say? I forget. Simulation, I don't know. It was either you or USA Libertarian. It's probably USA Libertarian. They're borderline rude. Oh my God. Uh-oh. No, I appreciate everybody's opinions, but just be polite. That's all I ask. While I'm the only one who's allowed to be rude. Hi, Humanimal. I have no idea who is guilty. I've seen how info rolls out, though, plenty of times. We could be in for a shock, sure, or there could be much smoke. Yeah, I just want the facts to come out. And as I stated before, an issue might be we don't know the facts because these videos got deleted. Kennedy asks, wouldn't the FBI have copies of the interviews also? Weren't they still involved at this time? Yeah, I mean, that's like within the first few days. I just don't know exactly where these were done. Was it the Carroll County, whatever, sheriff's office? Gino says that's the tough part of watching trial like this. We got to wait for the evidence at the trial, not this various other stuff that kind of slowly leaks out. Junior Johnson likes the word voluminous. So I said I was going to talk about this. So what do you guys think could have been so voluminous that Baldwin and Rosie are saying now they can't do a speedy trial because it's going to take a few weeks to review this new material, this new evidence? Some people have said, well, could it have been like, it seems like in August and September of last year, law enforcement, when they found out that the Odinists, quote unquote, were going to be named in the Franks memo, they said, okay, well, we need to go back and interview or investigate them. So is that what most of this voluminous discovery is? I don't know. USA Libertarian was not rude in this comment, so I'll highlight it. Literally every piece of defense that isn't direct testimony is going to be fought over by both sides. The fact that the prosecutor gets to cherry pick the evidence does not make the defense the bad ones. All right, thank you. Hi, Daniel, thank you. I think the defense is just aiming for a mistrial or aiming to make a case for appeals if found guilty. Yeah, a lot of people are saying like they're trying to like set it up for an appeal. But I agree that they do have some valid concerns. Courtney makes a good point. They deleted the marathon gas station footage too. I mean, that was just a rumor from the, I think the murder sheet were the ones who said that. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I believe, I don't know, it was something like the FBI screwed something up trying to get the marathon gas station as a gas station in Delphi. I don't know. We heard about it because maybe Kagan, somebody, or murder sheet said Kagan searched the marathon gas station, I don't know, on his phone or his computer on the afternoon of the murders or something, or the day of the murders. And I guess the FBI went to the gas station to get their video surveillance, and some issue happened, which I don't know. They said they could not extract it or something like that. I don't know why somebody couldn't just like lift up their phone and like take a video of the footage. I don't know. But good point. Hi, Illegally Blonde. Anne is not a fan of Rosie. Clearly, I say Baldwin or Rosie. I try to always like do it alphabetically, so I do the same thing every time. Clearly, rhythm and blues are scared. You know what? Les, to go to trial. They know full well what the state has substantively. Geez, let's get on with this. Well, that's a good point. What do they know, and why would Libreto be going on TV saying he knows like 100% sure Rick is not involved? Don't you think it's going to look bad? Like when it comes out of trial, whatever, if they say Abby and Libby's blood was found in Rick's trunk, that's not a rumor. It's just like an example. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out on Monday what McClelland has that warranted increasing these 4 other charges. Simply says reasonable doubt is all the defense has to show. Losing or destroying evidence and not serving search warrants that was signed on the people the evidence was on is reasonable doubt. Yeah, but if I'm a member of the jury and they show me whatever, like Rick's phone data and his car data, if his car data shows he pulled into CPS at 1:28 and he left at 4:02, and that was the only time his car drove that day, and they show me the 1:27 footage matching his car, frankly, I don't give a flying F what it shows about Westfall and Holder, because that shows to me that Rick was lying in October 2022, that he was only there noon to 1:30. And if these 4 girls get on the stand and say, yes, we walked that entire way, did not see Rick, went down the 505, did not see Rick, came back, did not see Rick, then as a member of the jury, that's not going to be good for Rick. Hi, Cinder. Brad Holder was at work with an alibi at the time. Yes, he checked out he clocked out at 2:45. It does not mean that he could not have driven 30 minutes. I don't know. I mean, I said in my 7-hour Frank's Memo video, it's 30 minutes from Holder's work to the crime scene. Then he would have had to walk like another 10 minutes. So that's 3:15 plus 10 minutes, 3:25. I don't know. Do you think that makes sense? I don't know. High support with Stefa. The U.S. Attorney General was calling daily to get updates on this case from law enforcement. I struggle to believe they made such a profound mistake. Well, unfortunately, it seems like it was true. Hi, True Crime Fangirl. Is a DVR like a camcorder? Digital video recorder, I think it is. Or recording. I don't know what the setup was. Hi, Travis, the lawyer. It's a great motion for summary denial of contempt. He is setting court up for another original action and possibly a federal writ of habeas corpus. I don't know. It's at this point, as I've said, the lawyers are just going back and forth, and now the prosecutor and the defense are going back and forth. Everybody's got their own attorney. It's like the facts are the facts. Like, let's just get to the trial. I asked previously, when did Rick meet Abby? And somebody said once, and Xtina is saying Rick met Abby on the 13th on the bridge. Sad face. Kennedy says, I was referring to them hiding the mysterious professor's identity. Why? Yeah, I agree that it seemed shady for them to not tell the defense, I guess, the name of the Purdue professor until the Frank's memo came out. So I agree that that's shady. I don't know that McClellan knew, but it seems like law enforcement did. On the other hand, I can understand why Holman wanted to wait for the Frank's memo to come out before he did a follow-up interview with the professor the day after. However, it's like, just tell the defense his name and you can like set up the interview for after the Frank's memo comes out. But I don't agree that that should have been withheld from the defense for so long. Hi, Mary. Mary says the Supreme Court left Gull on. I don't know what the next steps are in this case. I'm 45 minutes behind. Steph makes a good point. So many mistakes in the handling of this case by a number of individuals. It's a mess. Humanimal says the reason for the killing would have to be non-white supremacist odiness. I don't know. What if the branches were not? What if the branches on Abby and Libby were not in the form of runes? I know people have said, who've seen the photos, they say yes, it was, and some people say it was not. So if these branches were not in the shape of runes, what other evidence is there that points to a ritualistic sacrifice of Abby and Libby? I mean, people have said that when people get murdered in the woods, a common tactic is for some kind of like hiding of the bodies, either leaves or branches. So, I mean, is it really that far-fetched that somebody could have started to put these branches on Abby and Libby, and then they see that Libby's dad calls it 311 and 314, and they may have been interrupted from that part of it. And as I've said previously, did that cause them to start looking at the crime scene to see items that they felt their DNA may have transferred to? And that is why Libby's sneaker, her tie-dye shirt, and possibly her underwear, and one other item was found in the creek. Did the person, whoever was responsible for this, did they go to the creek, push those items under the water to get rid of the DNA and let them go, hoping they would float away forever? But obviously, as you guys have mostly seen, 3 of them got caught up in the same spot, which to me indicates maybe they were let go in the same position. I don't know. Susan, thank you. I appreciate you. And Stephanie, I appreciate you too also. Thank you for being a moderator also. Kimosabi says, I think the Incas, who are Indians, sacrifice their own daughters. But when is the last time did you ever hear about white supremacist odinists killing white girls? I don't know. I never did. Uh-oh, what's going on? High trip to Belize. Reading some of these comments is giving me a stroke. Uh-oh, what's going on? Hi, living vicariously in high definition. I understand the defense wants to defend their client. That is their job. But all this focus on anything but proving his innocence speaks volumes to me. Well, they're saying they can't prove his innocence if they do not have access to these original recordings. And I agree with them with that point. CJK says the hate on Gull and Nick is rabid, in my opinion. Yeah, there's some crazy ass MFs. All right. Hi, Shane. Thank you for staying up late. Did you hear I'm coming to Ireland? My grandmother was born in Ireland, Shane, County Mayo. I think you're in Ireland. I don't know. Thank you very much, Hannah. I find it hard to believe they could read anything written in blood on a tree. Yeah, so they said there's an F rune on this tree written with Libby's blood. I don't know. I do think that the vertical line looks not somewhat, it looks intentional to me. However, the two runes the horizontal lines go up or down, which I don't think the tree shows that. I don't know. I'll have to wait for some kind of expert at the trial, hoping there is a trial. Simply says, my fear is that Rick is the right guy too. And I think if he walks, it's the state's fault too. Sorry. Hi, Georgia Jakes. Abby could have overheard stuff about the Flora fires, which killed 4 girls, or was pregnant, or Anna turned Patrick Westfall down for a different race guy. Why do any killers kill? Well, some people have said if there's been these rumors that one of the girls could have been pregnant, or maybe a father and son wanted to kill them. Some people have said, well, if one of the girls was pregnant, wouldn't there have been 3 charges of murder, and including one for the baby, or whatever you want to call it? Whatever a baby inside of his stomach is called. Thank you, Deb. Yeah, be kind in the chat, or moderators, like seriously, if somebody's just like remotely being rude, just hide them from the channel. Anne says, the photo leak was not insignificant. It is potential major breach of professional responsibility. Baldwin and Rosie full well know they are just trying to tap dance everybody attention away from that. I don't know. There's this whole other issue of recently, I guess related, well, part of this contempt thing, I think, is they said when they were looking into Westerman, there was some kind of text communications between Westerman and Baldwin that included discussion about the defense's like case and their plan of attack, or whatever you want to call it. And people are saying, well, why was McClelland given access to that privileged information? That's illegal. So McClelland should be punished for that. But what I thought about, which I mean, I agree that there are certain rules that need to be followed. And I totally understand that. But I want to know, did Baldwin have Westerman sign this agreement that supposedly if you're given access to evidence, the defense attorneys, Baldwin and Rosie, should have had these people sign and file an agreement with Judge Gall. Did Baldwin do that? And if not, did law enforcement think that, okay, if we look in Westerman's, his text messages, since he's not officially assigned to the case, we're not expecting to see any communications between Baldwin and Westerman. I don't know. Hopefully the procedures are being followed. Hi, Annie. I hope you're not working today. Thank you. I appreciate it. Malibu still wonders why Diener recused himself. Move on with your life, Malibu. I'm kidding. He said like people were doxing him and his family or something. I guess he was getting messages. Like a lot of people on Facebook, I guess, hear about these people and they contact them. So I don't know. Uh-oh, Scott, I'm sorry. Your head is blocking the hotel I stayed at. There's no hotel back there. What? Simply says the warrant, I guess, for the AT&T phone records was signed, I think. It was signed and not served is what I heard. I don't know if you're talking about the AT&T stuff. I say I don't know a lot. The simulation, I tried drinking every time Tom says, I don't know, but ended up in the emergency room. Oh my gosh. Rick ended up in the emergency room one time drinking too much at home, and his wife called the police. I tried to find out more information, but I was denied. Oh, am I boring you? That's the screen name in case anybody's not watching. I'm also boring viewers. I'm way more afraid of Rick being innocent because that means there's a psycho on the loose. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, so I don't know if this is coming on Monday or not. And the Photogate investigation results by Indiana law enforcement are coming. They were ready to testify at that hearing Baldwin ran away from. It's coming down, though, sooner or later. Well, McClellan said it was more of it wasn't just a one-time leak of photos. There was evidence of an ongoing leak. Yeah, so we should at least at some point have a hearing to see some of this stuff. Hi to you. I can't even try to say your screen name. Luna is getting warnings. Don't give warnings to people. Just save yourself some frustration and delete or hide them. It's not that difficult to say your opinion without being rude. Well, Scott, you just said what I was talking about. It seems Richard Allen had proclivities and a drinking problem, and it's going to all add up. I don't know. I mean, do you really think he was drinking? If he truly is bridge guy, you think he got drunk at home on his day off and he was drunk by noon? And why is he walking across a bridge drunk? I don't know. Please don't listen to Tom and drive. Yes, that's a good advice. Yeah, so if somebody's annoying you, you can block them yourselves. I guess that's on the right-hand side of their name. Just click and it should give some options to ignore this clown. Unfortunately, you can't do it for me. You can by go watching cat videos or something. Hannah. Just a reminder, inculpatory evidence means you in danger, girl. You're going to be in jail. Exculpatory is good for the defendant. If you had to pick your opinion of the strongest piece of inculpatory evidence for Rick you've seen released so far, so what is like the worst thing against Rick? The 127, if the 127 video shows his car, that's going to be horrible to prove that he's lying about leaving at 1:30. Ex Tina, who's one of my subscribers and members, she made a good point. She said, if you remember on October 13th, the nosy neighbor, Gladys Kravitz, that's not her name. That's like some character from a show who's nosy. The neighbor took a picture, or somebody did, of Rick's car on a tow truck. So did police drive Rick's car past Hoosier Harbor Store camera in the afternoon? So at the trial, they can show a comparison photo of his car against the 127 car. If there's no differences between those two cars, as a member of the jury, that's not good for you, Rick. And Hannah, as I said before, if these four girls testify they walked, whatever. You heard me before, or you watched my video. If these 4 girls say they did not see Rick for the hour between around 12:30 to 1:30, that Rick said he also was on the trails sitting on a bench and he was not seen on a bench, that's not good for Rick. USA Libertarian, I think it is the 3.5 girls that saw Rick at the Freedom Bridge entrance. The time they saw him, if they can identify him, puts him there at the right time. So for people who don't know why this person said 3.5, in the PCA, it was stated that three girls gave their descriptions, and yes, they were all like kind of different. Although I think some of the references about being black, like a black jacket, could have been because the shade from the trees, and it was a dark blue jacket. If you look at the bridge guy video, the half of his jacket on the right side that's out of the shade, it looks very dark even out in the sun. So could a girl not really paying a lot of attention see a dark blue jacket that looked kind of black because it was hidden by whatever, it was shaded. The 3.5 is there was a younger sister, but apparently she did not get a good look at this person, which they said they saw Libby's screenshot later, and it did seem to be Bridge Guy entering the trails approximately around 1:30 to like 1:35 at the latest. I agree. I mean, I know at least one of those girls was shown a photo of this guy, Jimmy Duval. His name is Jimmy Dale Duval, who was in his 40s and had a goatee and looked a lot like Rick. As Libertarian says, that's not going to be good for Rick if these girls get on the stand and say, yes, that guy's sitting over there, I believe that is who I saw. My concern about that is they said he was wearing a hat, a short-billed hat, and a hood, and also a scarf up to his nose. So how accurate can they be if they did not get like a full good look at this guy? I don't know. But I do take into consideration more the description of several girls within a few feet, because this trail was not wide at all in 2017. I take their description, I don't know, as being more believable than somebody from 50 feet away, aka witness 4. Daniel says Labredo is just a defense attorney. He's always going to say the defendant is innocent. I don't know. Well, I mean, he seems to think that the facts back it up, and he did not have to go on TV on like at least two different shows to say that stuff. Scott says the Richard Allen report was considered unfounded, but I'd like to know by who and how they came to that conclusion. Yeah, I want to know how this all got screwed up. It might turn out that Rick truly is innocent, and them not following up on him properly for 5.5 years has no effect on proving who Bridge Guy is. But I don't know. I'm hoping Monday there's going to be some more evidence revealed that I don't want Rick to be guilty, but I want, at least for a lot of us, to have some more clarification about why the prosecution has upgraded charges. Well, Georgia just asked something. Why do you all keep hoping there is more evidence that we don't know of if what they have on Rick is good enough already for trial? Well, I don't think there's, at this point, I have not seen enough to say that I would vote Rick is guilty. I think there's a lot of stuff that points to it, and there are some things that point to his innocence. So I'm hoping there is more evidence that will show beyond a doubt for the jury and for us too. I mean, it's not about us. It's about Abby and Libby and the jury. But that's why a lot of us want to see some more evidence, Georgia, or Miss Jakes, or whatever you want to be called. Yeah, keep the families in your thoughts. Imagine how the families feel today. They must be terrified. No one will be prosecuted. Makes me sick. I do, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, against like people saying I'm biased. I have nothing against Rick. So until he's proven guilty in court, I do feel for him. I mean, he's been in this small cell for over a year. It keeps going on and on. So I do consider him and his family also. So I don't want to just say, oh, I only care about Abby and Libby and their families. I'm also thinking of Rick and his families. Athena says, yes, phone evidence should show Rick, quote unquote, checking his stocks. Well, my worry is, Athena, 5.5 years later, what car and phone data was still available? I mean, I've heard rumors that Rick maybe took a burner phone to the trails. That's just a rumor. As always, don't repeat anything you hear me say. It's just a rumor. It's like a low-level rumor, so don't repeat it. I forget what the defense said about the phone data. In the Franks memo, there's a list of 7 items where they said like Rick's DNA was not found at the crime scene. His social media did not connect him to Abby and Libby. They said something about his phone. I think there was nothing on his phone connected him to the crime scene. But did it show him checking stocks? Like, did it show his location? That's what I want to know, and obviously all of you do too. Scott says, if Richard Allen confessed and gave any detail, he's really a done deal. Yeah, I'm hoping that at some point, if this trial is not happening at least until next October 15th, which is when it's currently scheduled for, can McClelland release the transcript of Rick's April 3rd phone call where the prosecution is saying he repeatedly admitted to killing Abby and Libby? I don't know. Hi, Bernie. I think the crime scene was staged to look ritualistic after the fact. I know, it's like, who's to say that maybe Rick or somebody else, whoever bridge guy was, did not put these branches like in some kind of shape as a way to take attention away from the true motive. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. An hour and 37 minutes. I'm going to stop probably at an hour and 59 minutes. I'm getting colder. I need a drink. I don't know. Taco Bell. I was just choked on camera. Hi, my king of kings. The real killers, BH and PW, along with EF and JM, and the sun is the link between the victims and the real killers. Well, as I said before, I want to see the evidence that the whatever law enforcement did to have not charged those guys yet. Kennedy says, according to the memorandum, Rick called into the tip line and agreed to meet up with Doolin. Shouldn't all double homicide case interviews be recorded? Rick admitted to seeing other witnesses. The press release by the December 2022, there's this issue with Baldwin and Rosie released a press release after or right before the gag order. That said he contacted law enforcement. It's not certain that he called into the tip line and scheduled a interview. I've heard a possible other rumor that while Rick was at the grocery store, which is where this happened, he saw Doolin, the conservation officer, and went up to him and said, I was at the trails that day. So it was not an official scheduled interview. I'm not saying that is what happened. That's a possible rumor. Rick admitted to seeing other witnesses. He admitted seeing 3 girls. So my issue is police have said they know everybody on the trails except Bridge Guy. So if Liggett knew on October 13th, 2022, that there was never any group of 3 girls near Freedom Bridge at 12:05, is that the reason that they arrested Rick, because they knew he was lying? I mean, hello? Police either know or they don't if there was 3 young girls near Freedom Bridge entrance at 12:05 or around. I don't know. If a suspect says to me, "Yeah, I arrived at noon, I started to enter the trails, and I passed 3 girls. One was taller with brown or black hair." That's all I really remember. And police know, like, girls did not get there until like 12:20. The 4 girls did not get there until 12:30. Whatever. If they just know that there were not 3 girls at the start of the trail around noon to 12:05, that means Rick is probably lying. So why is he lying? In combination with this 127 car, is that what added up to law enforcement arresting him? Stephanie says, crazy, no DNA connecting Rick, especially with all the advances in technology and testing. There was DNA, though. We don't know whose. Are these upgraded charges because there was some kind of clarification on whether the DNA at the crime scene, whatever, if they're saying previously it did not match Rick's, did they somehow find who it belonged to? I've said previously, could it have been like a fingerprint or some kind of touch DNA on Abby or Libby's sweatshirts that maybe one of their friends had touched at a sleepover or whatever at school, and it had never been washed? Did the police somehow find out? I mean, this is just like speculation. Like one of their friends had touched that sweatshirt, and finally police said, okay, we know that that's like this girl, the friend's DNA. It seems like this was planned at some point. I mean, if you see Bridge Guy walking across the bridge, it seems to me there's items stuffed in his jacket, possibly a white rope at the top. Did he bring some kind of gloves? Gloves. And he was wearing a hat and a hood to prevent any kind of hair from being removed. I don't know. I don't have any experience with these cases to know like how DNA transfers and how often it transfers at these type of murders. I'm a quiet live chat host. Seriously, like I'm like the quietest person out of 360 people, and you guys force me to be the host of these things. USA Libertarian, if nobody accused him in 6 years in a public job at the CVS in Delphi, he does not have enough resemblance to Bridge Guy. I agree with that on some level, but at the same time, can you describe the eyebrows of the guy in Libby's video? Can you describe the lips, the jaw, exactly what kind of facial hair, the eyes? No, and not in my opinion. So how can we know like the full face if we can't even make out the individual characteristics? But I agree with you on some level. Hi, picture chick. Thank you. Onerous Covenant says Brady violations are serious. Yeah, we'll see what Judge Gull says about a hearing. Shane says Brad Holder was at work and then the gym. Well, didn't people, or the Frank's memo said he went to the gym twice. He checked out at work at 2:45. He starts at, I think, like 4 or 5 a.m., in case anybody was concerned when he starts. And then he went to the gym in the afternoon. And then the defense was saying, why did he have to go again at 2 a.m. if he had just gone to the gym in the afternoon? I don't know. Maybe he was trying to get rid of cellulite. I don't know. Thank you, Malibu. I'm going to have to do a Malibu background in your honor in the future. Hi, Charmaine. Charmaine stalked Brad Holder's Facebook and saw he did a check-in at his gym the day of the murder. So did I. I showed it in my Frank's Memo video. So he did yeah, so on Facebook, you can check in to locations, and some people say, well, you can also fake it. But on his Facebook, it does show February 13th and the 14th that Brad Holder checked into his gym. So did police go to that gym and say, at what time did he check in on the 13th? So if he checked out at work at 2:45, did he check into the gym at whatever, 3? So if you think that he's involved in the murders, does that add up for him to be involved? My king of king, he lied about knowing the victim. Huge red flag. I mean, yeah, he did change his story from whatever 2017 to 2023. Scott wants to know how many guys admitted to being there dressed the same way that day. How many other guys have they come up with? Pretty sure it's 0. Well, people debate how tall was Bridge Guy. I mean, I know on the wanted poster it said 5'6" to 5'10". People have debated Rick's height since he was arrested. There was some kind of legal document where it said he was 5'4", but there's been various mugshots that he's had taken for his portfolio. And one of them seemed to line up to about 5'7". Last week when Libredo gave some interviews, he said Rick was 5'6". So I don't know what he is basing that on, but even Rick himself said he was wearing a head covering and a hood. So if you're 5'6" and you have a hood on, how many inches could that add? So if he's 5'6", I mean, with a hat and then a hood, obviously, why do I need to show hand movements? You know what a hat and a hood looks like. But I'm saying it could be like 2 to 4 inches higher than his actual height. Just a thought. How many other guys have they come up with? I don't know. As I said in my recent video, I have a spreadsheet with I think it's 16 similar characteristics between Bridge Guy and Rick, and things that make you go, Hi, Mrs. Depp, sorry. You're Johnny's wife. There's a case in Indiana, the Christmas Ribbon Killer. Crime Junkies podcast, I guess, covered it. The killer was likely a coworker teacher, and the ribbon aspect was staged after to look like a signature. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And people are saying it had to have been odinous, but how do we know that Rick was not familiar with these various symbols? I believe the defense has said there's been no signs that Rick was aware of Odinism or involved in any kind of religious cult or anything. Somebody sent me a screenshot. Somebody once said that, why do people treat Tom Webster like a god? And in the comments section, they're like a cult of Tom Webster. Oh my God. I can't with some of these accusations that people make. There's conspiracy theories against me. I'm just trying to see this case through to the truth. Not that I have anything, whatever, not that I'm acting like I'm going to solve it. Angel says, maybe Rick is lying about the timing. I think he's probably Bridge Guy, but that does not mean he killed the girls. My current pondering involve going back to looking at the smaller trails and cutting through Ron Logan's property. Well, Angel, did you see my latest video? And how do you explain Rick not seeing these girls? Which I guess you're saying you think he probably could have been Bridge Guy. I don't know, but it's police have had whatever, 15 months to find somebody who could have conspired with Rick on this. And as we all know, there have not been any arrests. And as some people say, we all know that police have shown that they're incompetent. So it took 5.5 years to arrest Rick. So some people might say, hopefully it will not take another 5.5 years for somebody else. Steph does not think Bridge Guy is any of the suspects brought forth at this point. I do not see Rick's face in the Bridge Guy video. I'm sure you've seen enough of my videos, Steph, to know that I would like to hear some more like samples of Rick's voice to see or hear if it seems to match up with the bridge guy audio. I don't know. Oops, I said I don't know. Don't drink. I missed what this was about though. Elvis Fields is the guy who confessed supposedly to his two sisters. So Elvis gave confession and details, and he is just fine. He doesn't even have explanation for being in Delphi, lived 125 miles away. Well, Georgia, I thought you think that the Odinists are involved. So I don't know what you're saying here. So Elvis said he did not have a car. This is the guy who supposedly a law enforcement officer says he had the mental capacity of a 7 or 8 year old. After the Franks memo came out, he said on Facebook, I did not even drive or have a car at the time. What do people think? I took my turtle 2 hours from Rushville to Delphi. I agree that his confessions to his sisters or his statements are very suspicious. I'd like to know what police did to verify what he said. I know one of his sisters passed a lie detector test saying he said suspicious stuff. But even in the Franks memo, they did have phone data for Elvis. So why was a search warrant for Elvis approved and gotten and not for Holder and Westfall? And what the defense said in that was, it's hard remembering all these facts, so give me a break. They said in the Franks memo that Elvis Fields' phone had no activity, I believe, between 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., insinuating that he could have been in Delphi committing the murders. But as I just said, Rushville is 2 hours from Delphi. And there's been various also like speculation or rumors that this Elvis guy could have been a guy who was seen around 8:30 at the start of the private drive. So I want to know what his phone showed between like 6:30 to 8:30 if he was being driven to Delphi. I don't know. I think for a lot of this stuff, we're gonna have to wait for the trial if hopefully it's gonna happen. Shane says Brad Holder had a long beard 2 to 3 days after the killings in a Facebook post, correct? USA Libertarian, if the evidence hinges on a girl who was 14 at the time, witness testimony, that's going to be rough. Well, are you going to believe a 50-year-old from 50 feet away who was maybe not wearing prescription glasses and was wearing sunglasses and said, I saw a 20-year-old? And then a few years later, she says, oh, maybe he was early 30s. I don't know. Hi, Gen X Randa. This was scheduled like 15 minutes before it happened, so sorry for the late notice. I was trying to avoid it. Yeah, so we're at 1 hour and 53 minutes. I don't know. I guess I'll go a little bit longer. I'm an hour and 3 minutes behind comments. That's when it's time to stop, you know. All right, let me skip a bunch of people. Sorry. Onerous covenants is a prosecutor. I always gave the defense everything. This sort of thing would give me a serious case of D. I'm not saying that. Well, owner, hopefully I'm saying your name right. What do you think about McClellan saying the defense has not given him a single piece of their evidence and discovery in the whatever 14 months that they've been representing Rick? McClellan just had to file a motion to compel discovery saying, let me get this comment off the screen. He had to file something saying the defense isn't giving me their evidence. I need to depose their experts and stuff. Hopefully I highlighted something that's not inappropriate. Digital says, first they have to prove bridge guy video time, date, and device or origin. Picture chick. This is the Evansdale or Evansville or Evansdale murders of two young cousins who were also found outside. I think they went for a bike ride. The things that people do to these kids is horrible. Has anyone ever heard this horrible situation similar to Elizabeth and Lyric Cook? Do you think it could be the same perpetrator? I don't know. Some people said that like 2/13/17 is when the Delphi murders happened. And if you flip that date, it's when these two other girls were killed. So some people thought like there's maybe some kind of numerology by like the killer. I don't know. I have not really looked into that case that much. Katya is triggered by Doug Carter. You're not the only one. I just cannot get past Doug Carter and his quote, other tentacles. Oh my God, that's kind of worded wrong. He seems so confident with his claim too. It could have been that he was like saying we went down so many different avenues before we came to looking at Rick Allen again. Maybe talking about just various other suspects, including the clients. I don't know. Cinder makes a good point. I think there is DNA of some sort. We don't even know if it's human. So in Ron Logan's search warrant, it said there was like unidentified hairs and fibers. So I know that Kegan Klein's dad's dog had his hair removed. Obviously, it's out in the woods, so it could have been like whatever, any kind of animal hair. I don't know at some point if that's going to come into play. Or if those fibers matched up to, I don't know, something related to Rick. Scott says Richard Allen never came forward again, and he had to know that they were asking for witnesses to step forward, and they were looking for whoever parked the car there at CPS, and he knew all of that. Yes, and I previously said, well, I said it looked bad for Rick after April 2019 to not say, like, remember me, I told you in 2017 I parked at next to an old building, essentially. I don't know. Some people say, well, Doug Carter misspoke and said, we're looking for the driver of a car or vehicle parked at CPS between the hours of noon to 5 on February 14th, which is the day after the murders. You would think that anybody with some kind of intelligence would know that he meant really on the day of the murders. I know after Doug spoke, there was this other officer, Burston, who clarified, no, he should have said the 13th. I've also said, has Rick, as police officers would come into CVS, would he say, I was on the trails that day, I'm concerned about the case, is there any update? And I've said previously, it doesn't seem like that happened, but maybe it did happen. That's all I'll say. Sorry, I'm just looking for a comment. We're at 1 hour and 59 minutes. I don't know. I'll go to 2 hours and something, but not 3 hours. Judy, hi, Judy. Have you missed something big with Delphi? Yeah, so the defense is filing to dismiss all charges against Rick because they said that essentially law enforcement is hiding information and that police like recorded over the first, essentially the first week of interviews that they did. There's whatever debate about whether it was intentional or not. I believe it could have been a mistake by somebody not actually like pushing a button to stop recording, and then it just kept recording after they left the room. and it recorded over everything that had not already been transferred over to a different drive that had more space. Thank you, Kelt, for joining. I am organized. That's like one of the few things that I am. And I hate hosting live chats. Maybe they'll give me access to the evidence and I can do live chats and show you guys everything I'm organizing. Deb's True Crime Notebook. I have a ton of notebooks full of Delphi information, and my phone is loaded with files, pictures, and documents. Yeah, if you don't subscribe to Deb's True Crime Notebook, look her up. She's a very nice person. Hi, Rachel. Onerous Covenant says accidental mistakes is not a defense to a Brady violation. Cinder, yeah, this is a good point. From what Cinder heard out in the streets, they DNA tested Holder, Westfall, Elvis, and others, which is a good point, but they also tested Rick, and Rick's DNA did not match the crime scene. Scott is saying, so Richard Allen could be a star witness for the Odinists. So you think the Odinists are going to get charged and Rick is going to be, we're finally going to hear his voice? Let me skip over a bunch more, sorry. Sorry. Humanimal, are you getting triggered? CPS is on MAPD. It is also noted as Old Farm Bureau building, not darn insurance, not Farm Bureau. I can't say it enough. Don't get so triggered early in the morning in Australia. Scott says, did Richard Allen miss a ride back to his car? So Scott seems to think that Rick is guilty. And he's saying, if that was Rick on the 350 or spotted by the 357 driver headed back to his car CPS, a lot of planning, but he walked back to his car. Well, as I've said everything 99 times. We know the Hoosier Harvester camera saw a car at 127, and also it got Kelsey's car and all these other people's cars. Is it motion activated where only a car would activate it and not a pedestrian? However, how did Bridge Guy or Rick walk past the Mears parking lot and not get seen? Because around that time, Libby's dad was parked. I believe one of the McCain brothers was parked. There's at least one of the older women who was on the bridge was parked, and maybe even the arguing couple was parked there. So if they left even around that time, why did none of these other people see Rick or Bridge Guy? Only one person at 357. I don't know. Cinder, I'm on Ambien right now, about to drift off because it's past my bedtime. I'll have to finish on Replay Crew. Tom needs to go live earlier for old people. We'll see. Hi, Lisa. There seems to be no attention to detail in the whole case. I really don't think the trial is going to be effective. I agree with your first sentence. I'm hoping the second one is not true. Shane says people forget the car that quote unquote resembled Rick's passed the gas station at 127. The lies from both sides are ridiculous. Well, There's like at least 3 different versions of the PCA that have been released throughout various prosecution motions. The first one did say appearing to resemble. Another one said appears to match Rick's. It was the Hoosier Harbor store. It's not a gas station though, but I mean, it is a huge piece of evidence, Shane, if it does match Rick's car. I'm not acting like I have all the answers, just to clarify, or that I would have done a better job. Angel, what time did the woman, witness 4, see her guy on the bridge? Her car was spotted on the Hoosier Harbor store camera at 1:46. The Mears parking lot is within a few seconds. So she parked at like 1:46 or 1:47. It takes about a minute to get to the Mears intersection. Then she walks. I estimate it took about until 1:53. She saw some guy on platform 1, which to me, as I said in my recent video, the guilty timeline of 1:30 to 3:30 or 4 seems to add up more than this noon to 1:31. If Rick parked at 1:28, he's seen by these 4 girls, goes to platform 1. He said he was on platform 1, but he said it was whatever, 90 minutes earlier. I don't know. It seems that I said, I don't know. I'll try and stop saying that. But I don't know the answer. So just hoping the prosecution does. Sword speak. Why is it weird if Rick parked at CVS? I thought that's where he worked. He worked at CVS, but there was an old child protective services building, like that had a parking lot that some people would park at. One of the issues is, I don't know if you've seen my latest video, how did Richard Allen not see bridge guy, shows one of these drone pictures of the CPS building. And as soon as you pull in, according even to witness 4, most drivers will pull in to CPS and park right there because there's the start of the trail is there to get to Freedom Bridge and then the main trail. Rick said he parked next to an old building, the CPS building. So why did Rick pull all the way in and then back his car up to CPS? And then witness 4 says at 2:15, she and another driver at 2:10 saw a car in that same exact or similar position backed up to CPS. So it's up to you to decide. Do you think that's kind of suspicious that Rick left around 1:30 in that spot? And within at least, 40 minutes, somebody else parks in that same unusual spot. And that person also had like 15 or so similarities to Rick. I don't know. I often choose Tom as my sleep video. No comment. I'm not sure what this is saying, Georgia. How does Rick, I guess you're saying, turn into the guy witness 4 saw on the bridge around, as I just said, around 1:53, and also be identified with a scarf over face dressed 2 different colors, 3 different ways? I think it's important to remember that even though there were so many different descriptions, the 357 driver, these 4 girls around 1:30, and witness 4 around 1:53-ish, they all saw, according to the PCA, Libby's video and the screenshot and said, yes, that is the guy I saw. So at 3 different times and locations, these 3 different groups said, I saw a bridge guy. As I stated before, I'm just concerned about witness 4 being so far away, 50 feet. I don't know. Oh, sorry. Why did people I get triggered by apostrophes in Frank's memo, and some people get triggered that I call Rick. That's what his coworkers call him, so that's what I'm calling him. Bree OC, is the trial going to be broadcasted? I don't know if it's going to be broadcast. I would say stay tuned, but I don't know if it's going to be broadcast. It better be. People will freak out if this is held in private. Marit, I'm beginning to think Doug Carter was talking about actual octopus tentacles. Deb's True Crime Notebook says Angel, Abby, and Logan were boyfriend and girlfriend, but had recently broken up, as I understand it. Not sure they ever actually had a quote unquote date. Yeah, I don't know specifics on that. I know that the son, the boyfriend, I think I saw a screenshot of his Facebook at some point, and even though he was dating another girl, he did have some kind of like memorial to Abby on it. Yeah, simply, I was saying this before. I want to know how he got back to his car without being seen on the camera. If the camera saw him drive by to park, how did it not see him walk back? I legit don't know. Does anyone have an explanation? So as I said before, it could have been motion activated only for like over, I don't know, like 10 miles an hour, like for a car. My other issue, one of them is I have a lot of issues, obviously, mental and otherwise. Police in the PCA said, we see Rick's car at 127, or matching Rick's car, resembling Rick's car. 127, which would have been the longest way out of 3 ways to get from Rick's house to the whatever CPS or even the trails. So if that's Rick's car and he went to the High Bridge, why did he not park at Mears? As I said in my recent video, Rick said he saw cars at the Mears parking lot. Why in 90 minutes did he not see any adults who had parked at that parking lot? He only saw 3 girls around Freedom Bridge in the first 5 minutes. And then in the next 85 minutes, he did not see any adults who drove those cars that he said he saw at Mears. Also, why is there no video that's been referenced by either the prosecution or the defense? I know what people are going to say. That shows Rick going home either at 1:30 to 1:40 or like 4 to 4:10. I know people are going to say, well, they lost it, but I don't know. I would hope that there would have been some kind of surveillance video at some point within Delphi to show either Rick's car going by at 1:35, which that would be great for his innocence. But as far as we know, the defense has not referenced that at all in any document. All right, I'm an hour and 10 minutes behind. I'm scrolling over so many comments. Sorry. 2:12. Like, we're going to wrap it up pretty soon, people. Ah. Uh-oh. Why did I have to stop on this? The video of the car is going to be very grainy. Yeah, I'm not expecting anything else. However, in the PCA, they said they were able to use this Hoosier Harvester video to identify Kelsey's car, witness 4, the 228 driver, and the 357 driver. So it was good enough to match up their car descriptions with those cars, like whatever they said, the statements of the witnesses. I don't know. I'm not expecting the best quality. I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. Hi, Mary. Why are communications between Baldwin and Westerman privileged? They should come up in the investigation, re the leak. I don't know. I've read various explanations, but to be honest, I forgot exactly how that all works. Westerman was a former employee who apparently did not even pass the bar in Indiana to become a lawyer. So why was Baldwin consulting with Westerman on this case? I'm pretty sure it was stated, I guess maybe by McClelland, that Baldwin even sent the Franks memo to Westerman before it was published. I mean, I don't know. Some people say that's no big deal, but I don't know. Oh, shit. Sorry, I said that. Hi, She-Elf. I've still never heard of a single honest crime case. Me neither. Marit says, this chat is polite and reasonable compared to a lot of other Delphi chats I've seen out here in the YouTube streets. I try to. I mean, as I say, if you're a moderator and somebody's like even remotely being a jerk, just block them. That way I'll only fall behind like 57 minutes instead of 58. All right. Sorry. Kimberly, I once heard there was a peeping Tom associated with this case. That was, I think, Kagan's father previously. What if Rick was that peeper into Libby's window and heard them talking about going to the bridge? No, I don't think so. Are you smoking doobie? Sorry. What? How would Rick even go to like Libby's house? It was February. Their windows were closed. I guess. I don't know. I'm going to have you tried it. I denied it. Sorry, Kimberly. Sasha, hello. What are these people doing in the name of these children's lives? They better figure it out. Where's the family? Well, apparently they're under the gag order. What is this freak show? Move the venue immediately. I mean, I'm fine with Gull being replaced, hopefully by a retired Indiana Supreme Court justice. So people won't say, well, they're unqualified or whatever. I don't know. Sorry. Now, I wish I never read that. Now I have a complex about saying, I don't know. Living vicariously in high definition says, if I were Rick and I was innocent, I would try to get my voice out there and show the world that I'm not afraid of people hearing it. I know we've heard a few words from him so far, like there's a wheelchair coming up. We have heard somebody called his voicemail and he says, Rick. I don't know. Some people think it matches guys. I don't know. Uh-oh. Hi, Patricia. Rick's admittance of being there, the bullet, and that he looks like Bridge Guy. I think you're talking about like the most incriminating evidence. Admittance of being there. Yeah. So a lot of people say, well, he told the conservation officer he was there 1:30 to 3:30, but as people have stated, well, we don't know because the audio is supposedly missing. So I think that's a valid point to question whether he truly did say that. However, if you're the conservation officer and he truly was like the conservation officer was, I don't know, at the grocery store getting lunch. And Rick comes up to him and says, I was at the trails, and he like pulls out his notepad to write some details. Why would he write down 1:30 to 3:30? Unless Rick said, I was there 1:30 to 3:30. That's partially what I can't get past. Why is there discrepancy where it would have been written 1:30 to 3:30 if that's not what Rick said? The bullet, a lot of people question the quality of that science and that he looks like Bridge Guy. Well, as I've said, we can't see his face really. I do think Bridge Guy has small feet, and I've shown that Rick has small feet. Not saying that that means he should be convicted. Hi, Purdue RN. Let the chat with a law degree and who is an elected judge cast the first stone to Judge Gull. What's going on in the chat? I guess this is for me. Have you noticed your proof always cokes with add-ons in order to explain your reasoning? Well, I always try to explain my reasoning. Georgia, how did these four girls not see Rick? Looking forward. If you didn't watch my recent video, I don't like to promote my videos, but it's a very important issue. How did Rick not see these girls? Nobody has been able to give me a logical explanation. Like there's like 9,000 views in a few days. Not a single person can say how Rick was on this trails and the bench. And so were these four girls for 60 minutes or so that Rick was there. Neither of them saw each other. Hi, Shadowbox. We're ending it in about 10 minutes. Hi, Bud. Nice to see you. Hi, Chris. In the PCA, it stated that Rick was behind Abby on the bridge in Libby's video, but I've seen that photo and video. No Abby in the video and no Rick in the video. So what that was referring to was they said bridge guy can be seen behind Abby. So the video that was released, it's based on like 43-second video where it does show a better look of Abby. And if you watch the 2-second version that we all have of the video, you'll like kind of see like a little thing on the left side real quick. And apparently that might be like Abby. And in the PCA, they're essentially saying that Rick was bridge guy. And it says at the end of the video, whatever, I forget the exact wording, the man is seen and heard. So I'm curious to know if there's any like identifying characteristics at the end of the video, the 43-second video, if Libby was holding it on her side, like by her waist, that gives some kind of whatever identification to match up to Rick or his clothing. I don't know. Bernie says, other than his attorneys, who is speaking out for Rick? Not even himself. I'd be screaming it. I agree that I absolutely would be screaming it, and I'd be like Ron Logan doing a bunch of on-camera interviews. I know the owner of the JC's bar where Rick used to go, he said the voice of Bridge Guy did not match Rick. That's like essentially the only person I've ever seen or heard who kind of was speaking out for Rick. I know there is a gag order, so maybe certain people can't talk. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Wom Tebster. USA Libertarian. Rick's wife, I guess you guys were talking about how his wife would not know. Rick's wife also had the reinforcement that nobody else thought it was him. Very powerful when you don't want to believe something. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is not Rick as the bridge guy. I don't know. So maybe she saw that jacket and whatever's on his head and said, well, Rick does not own that stuff and it does not sound like him on the audio. I don't know. I'm open to the possibility that it's not Rick. It's just there's so many things that potentially point to it being him. Kennedy says, Indiana State Police still has not explained why Kegan Kline was not immediately arrested. Why? Yeah, it took 3.5 years to arrest him for the CSAM stuff, which was ridiculous. So I'm not expecting too many answers on this case either, all right? As long as you keep your expectations low. Rachel says, this arrest took forever. Unfortunately, you're correct. The composite pic totally changed. Alleged evidence has been lost, and there are none of the usual elements that make a case. That's why I think we're eager to see more evidence. Correct. Mrs. Depp, this is Amber Heard. And Vroom, I'm just putting it out there that I think his alibi and time at the bridge will have changed because of new digital data. He left his regular phone at home, I bet. Yeah, this phone data, which I really hope they were able to get, what is it going to show? Will his normal phone number that he was using in February 2017 show that he left it at home? So if he says he was on his phone looking at a stock ticker, it's kind of like an excuse why he could not say if he saw other people on these very narrow trails. Is that going to be bad for Rick? I don't know. Anne says it's going to be interesting to hear what the conservation officer has to say about the Rick thing when he's called in at trial, assuming he's called. Well, I would assume the defense would absolutely question everything about him. I don't know that the conservation officer even had the access to enter this tip into the FBI Orion system. I'm still like 45 minutes behind. All right, I'll do 5 more comments, then you're all dismissed. I'll highlight some people that I never have seen before, and I'll butcher their names. Sidonia Plain. Oh my gosh, am I wearing a gingham shirt again? I wore this on purpose to trigger people from my last live chat. They aren't going to tip their hand. They could have nothing or a mountain of damning evidence. Okay. I don't know if you're talking, I guess you're talking about the prosecution. So you're saying that the prosecution is waiting for the trial, I guess, to reveal the most damning evidence? I've never seen this name before. Sterling Hewlett-Packard Library. Rick was working at a Walmart an hour away from Lyric, those 2 girls, the Evansdale murders, at the time of the murders. I don't think he was involved, though, due to complexity of site where girls were found. He definitely is bridge guy. Well, his date, people have wondered, could Rick have done this before? And it's been whatever, 14 or 15 months since Rick was arrested, and they've had his DNA. So he's not been charged with anything else. Like, his DNA did not match any other crimes as far as we've seen. All right, 3 more. And that's it. Billy, I have not highlighted you today. Rick's lawyer said that the villain from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom did the crime, but the prosecution taped over their VHS copy. Billy always has funny comments. Hi, JMS. Investigate the investigation. Totally agree. Would I have 2 more or 1 more? I'll do 2 more. I'm just looking for people who I have not highlighted. Give me a minute here. Sorry, let's see. Marge, I don't think I've highlighted you. How many people that were at the trail that day have a gun that matches the bullet ejector markings that were found at the crime scene? Guilty. I can phone in my vote. I don't know. I'm so conscious now of saying I don't know. Anyway, Taco Bell. I don't know. We're going to see a bunch of different sides of this gun ballistics evidence at the trial. I know that there was at least one other local gun that was looked at. And as far as we know, it did not match the crime scene. So as a jury member, that's important to me in making my decision. If the prosecution is going to say, we analyzed this same Sig Sauer gun of the guy at the end of the private drive, and it did not match the crime scene. So when we tested Rick's and it did, that was one of the main reasons, or at least one of them, that we thought he was guilty and why we arrested him. Final comment after we're at 2 hours and 29 minutes. Let me see. Hi, the unhinged. I talked about that before. What did Yeah, I talked about it before. One more comment. I'm just looking for a screen name I have not ever seen before. I haven't seen this one. I'm just going to pick this one. I'll pick one more after this, though. Ha! Hi, Steve. Did anything come about from Lee Kerr? Were they ever identified? No and no, as far as I know. Lee Kerr was somebody on Reddit who said they came up with the name Lee, Kerr is the last name. That's like leaker of information, where they kind of insinuated that they were somebody who had inside information. I remember reading it and moving on with my life. And it, I don't know that anything that they said really turned out to be true, at least in the context of Rick being arrested. One final comment. So when's my next live chat? Unfortunately, probably around this time on Monday, the 12th. There is this hearing, February the 12th, 9 a.m. Eastern, to review the 4 charges against Rick that were added by McClelland, and also this contempt thing against Walden and Rosie. So I'm really hoping we get some more details about why McClelland upgraded these charges. Aloha, Ling, 8 Ling. One final comment. This is the last one, because I've never seen this name. Hi, Freddie. I really want to hear the alleged confessions. Yeah, we all do. I said before, I wish that McClelland would at least include the transcript in a future motion by the prosecution, since so many people are debating what the heck this alleged confession could have been, even though the prosecution says Rick admitted several times that he killed Abby and Libby, not that somebody else did, and he was only a bridge guy. It said Rick killed Abby and Libby. However, I think also the tone of his voice is going to matter. Does he sound whatever of a decent mind, or is he truly losing his mind at that point? Also, his cell is currently under video surveillance, so there's going to be a way for the prosecution to match up his voice on the recording from the phone to the video from his cell. What was Rick doing before he went? Like, how was he acting before he went to meet with the defense intern and investigator? It seems like after he got that various paperwork during that meeting on April 3rd, he went back to his cell and he initiated a call, at least with his wife at that time, where the prosecution is saying he repeatedly admitted killing Abby and Libby, and then his wife abruptly hung up. And that's why you say you want to hear them, and that's why we all do. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. All right, that's it for me for today. Thank you, as always, for sharing your thoughts. I guess I'll see you on Monday. I don't know how much information is going to be revealed. As far as I know, as of this point, the Monday hearing is not going to be televised, but as always, there's nosy people who go to watch it and then tell us all the stuff that happened afterwards. Thank you to all my moderators. Thank you to everybody who was very kind and generous. Cynthia, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Everybody else too. That's it for me for now. I'll see you guys in a few days. Thank you. Bye.